Hey friends, this is Liz from the Peacock Homestead, and I am still doing the challenge that Jessica's hosting over at the Three Rivers Homestead. This is week 7 actually, and I'm going to show you a few meals from this week, and also I am going to be making a winter lip butter. So I'm going to strain my dandelion infused oil. It's been infusing since 11/19, so it's ready to make healing, salve, and lip balms, and all kinds of good things. So let's get into the video. These are the eggs I found yesterday morning. One of them is my bantam chicken. She lays the tiniest little girl eggs. And then the other one is my Rhode Island Red. And they're doing okay. They just started laying again, so I am excited. And these are the roasts that were in my freezer. I had a couple roasts, and I figured just to make room, I would can them up. And it's going to be part of our dinner tonight. I have this butternut squash that I need to eat up, so we're going to have that with it. And then we are going to have some mashed potatoes with it as well. So I'm just going to cut this in half and get it roasting in the oven on 375. I'm going to get all the seeds out of it, and then I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil on it and some of my herbs de Provence spice. So I'm going to be using just regular olive oil. I found out this was the better price at Walmart, and I know it's real because it solidifies in the fridge. I had bought this other kind, a Walmart brand, and it was not solidifying in the fridge. So I'm pretty sure they are mixing it with something else. So this oil is from a privately owned company, and I definitely trust it. So I'm gonna get this all oiled up and put my little spice on there and get it in the oven. And I roast it for, I don't really have a specific time. I just roast it until I can stick a fork in it. I'm thinking about like 40-45 minutes. But this took a little extra long in the oven. So what I do is I just pop it in a 375 degree oven, and then I check it after 35 minutes. I'll check it on the 40-minute mark and the 45-minute mark. I just keep checking it. And this is how dinner looked. I heated up the canned roast, and then I put it over the mashed potatoes. We had butternut squash and some of my leftover biscuits. And on this night, I decided that we are going to be using up this sourdough bread. We weren't really eating it fast, so I was going to make a French toast casserole, and I'm going to be using my water glass eggs. And to the mix, I'm adding a little bit of cinnamon, some homemade vanilla extract that I make with rum, and I have my beef tallow. I was just going to grease up the pan real quick so it doesn't stick. And then we're going to get this sourdough all chopped up into little bitty squares. I don't use the whole thing because that was a lot of bread. It was over half a loaf. But it was starting to get hard, and I needed to get that used up. This is exactly how I cut my croutons when I make them. And then I just add olive oil and the spices that I like. I like herbs de Provence and garlic powder, onion powder, salt, and pepper when I make my croutons. But I just added a little teaspoon of vanilla extract, those eggs, and a teaspoon of cinnamon. And then we're going to get that all mixed up. And I'm going to pop it in a 350 degree oven, and I bake this for 35 to 40 minutes. This is one of my go-to dinner breakfasts because it's super easy and it's filling and it has a whole bunch of protein in it. So I'm just going to lightly grease this pan with my tallow, and we're going to get that right in the oven. I love making casseroles because it's a lot better than flipping your French toast and standing at the oven and just wasting time. You could just throw it all in one pan and have this. And then we had this for breakfast the next morning. And this is what it looked like. It turned out so yummy, and I actually put a little bit of my peach jam on it and some maple syrup and some butter. This is Tom's, and we definitely enjoyed this that night. On this night, I decided I was going to make tacos, so I wanted to find a nice recipe out of my sourdough book. And I found these Greek yogurt flatbreads. I figured that was perfect, and they're going to be so delicious. And I can use some of my sourdough discard. So I got my sourdough discard. I have some butter here, and I have honey in place of the white sugar. I have some plain yogurt, olive oil, a little bit of sea salt, and a baking powder. And of course I have my all-purpose flour. I figured that I can use my peppers that I have in the freezer and some onions with the hamburger and some taco spice, and this would be perfect. And I also snuck in some of my salsa that I can this year. So here I'm adding 2.5 cups of flour to my mixing bowl, and then I'm going to be adding some olive oil, and I have about 1/4 cup. And then for the yogurt, I have 1/4 cup. You can use Greek yogurt as well. It'll probably make it even more tasty. So I'm adding 2 tablespoons of butter. And in place of the sugar, I have honey, and I have about 1 tablespoon of that. And then for my sourdough discard, I'm putting in about 1/2 cup of that. For the baking powder, you are going to need 1/2 teaspoon, and that'll make them puff up really nice. And then for the salt, I'm just going to add 1 teaspoon, and I'm just using my sea salt, and then 2 tablespoons of water, and it's ready to be mixed up. So I'm going to mix this up really well, and it's going to all combine, and then I'm going to let it rest for about 1 hour, and then I'm going to roll these out. I made 8 little balls, and then I rolled them out, and you can pop them right in your pan dry, and they'll cook right up about 2 minutes on each side. So I'm going to let these rest, and then I'll get them all cooked up, and we'll get the filling made. And then I'm going to get going on my dessert bars. I'm calling them my Elvis peanut butter and banana bars. So for this recipe, you're going to need some sea salt, 3 ripe bananas, 1 stick of butter melted, and then I'm going to be using my peanut butter powder for the topping. I'm going to be making a glaze. I'm adding in some collagen peptide. I got some baking soda here. And I also have my sourdough discard, and I'm using honey instead of sugar. And then I have my vanilla extract and a little bit of plain yogurt. And I'm going to be using all-purpose flour in this recipe as well. And I have my pan with parchment paper in there. It's about a 9 by 11, and my little mixing bowl. So I'm taking 2 eggs and adding it to the bowl. And I'm going to be using my sourdough discard for this recipe, and I'm adding in 1/2 cup of that. And I'm going to be putting my recipe in my blog, so it will be in my blog if you'd like to try that on the peacockhomestead.com. And for the flour, we are using 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. You can use freshly milled flour too, but I let my grains soak for at least 1/2 hour. And I'm going to be adding in 3 ripe bananas. Everyone has those bananas that they don't want to throw away in the back of the freezer. It's kind of like the banana graveyard. And then for the yogurt, we are going to be adding 3/4 cups of plain, and you can use vanilla yogurt as well. And I melted a stick of butter in the microwave to make it easier. You can use tallow or palm fruit shortening or any of those hard fats. I'm using a teaspoon of each of baking soda and sea salt. And then to just sweeten it up, I'm going to use a cup of honey. I'm trying to use more honey in our recipes just because it's healthier for us. I wanted to add more nutrients to this because I know that it is a sweet bar, so I'm gonna be adding some collagen peptides, and that's good for your skin, your hair, your nails, and your ligaments. So that would be super good to have in the morning to boost your nutrients for breakfast. And I got that all mixed up, and I'm gonna be adding it to my 9 by 11 pan lined with parchment paper, and I have my oven preheated to 375, and I'm going to be cooking it for around 30 minutes. And for the glaze, all I did was add 3 cups of powdered sugar, a cup of the powdered peanut butter, 4 tablespoons of yogurt or milk, and a 1/3 cup of melted butter, and that turned out wonderful. So I made sure it was done. As you can see, my little knife spots. And then I only frosted one because I'm popping them in the freezer and I don't want them to be soggy, but that's what that looks like, and it was so delicious. I think Elvis would approve. And now we are on our way to making these tacos. So I have some hamburger meat. I have my flatbreads all rolled out. I made 8 little balls and I flattened them out with my rolling pin. And I am going to just fry them up on 3 minutes each side. And then I have my taco seasoning here. I added about a couple tablespoons, and I probably added a little bit more after that because it wasn't enough. And to the hamburger, after it gets all browned up, I was going to add some of my peppers that are in the freezer and some onions. So I'm going to flip that over, and it's looking pretty good, and they're nice and thick. I love these. And here are my onions and my peppers. I'm going to make sure that my onions are translucent and cooked, and my peppers are softened up. And this is going to be so delicious. So we've had these for leftovers for a couple nights. And this is what dinner looked like. Here are all those skillet yogurt flatbreads, and they turned out so amazing. And I am going to be using these for breakfast for the next morning. And the filling turned out really nice. I shredded some sharp cheddar cheese, and I have some salsa that I made this year and I canned up. On this morning, I went out to the coop and I found 4 eggs. The other little white one right here, that was from the day before, but look how tiny they are. They're so precious. My little bantam chickens are so cute. So on this morning, I am frying up some potatoes. I cut up some potatoes and I am using some beef tallow, and they turned out super delicious. And then I baked some of these sausages in the oven. I just made sure the middle was done, and then we'll have leftovers for that for the next couple breakfasts. And then I made sure my potatoes were really brown. We love them, so they're nice and crunchy, and they're super delicious like that. And thank goodness my chickies are starting to lay eggs. I thought it was going to get warmer out, and then it just keeps getting colder and colder, and we keep getting so much snow. I think we're just getting all of the snow for the whole winter in this month of February. It's so crazy. I am so excited to show you guys this recipe. It is my winter healing lip butter, and I'm using dandelions because dandelions are healing, and they heal cracked lips, cracked skin, and so much more. And I need to strain it out because it's been infusing for about a couple months. So I have some essential oil here. I have some orange. Then I have shea butter, and then in the back I have beeswax pastels. Then I have these little tins where I'm going to be filling them in. And these make wonderful gifts. And I've already tested out my lip butter, and it works so amazing, and it has such a nice smell. I've actually added peppermint to it as well, so it's a peppermint orange lip butter, and it is so amazing. And of course I have my little helpers here. They're going to help me. Tigger, Severus, and Jack, and Blessing. They're all little helpers. Well, I'm going to start off by taking these out of the package and getting them all situated, so lay them out. When I have everything done, I can just pour them in. So that's what those look like. And I'm going to get those all organized, and then I am going to strain my dandelion oil. So I have a little bit of cheesecloth and a strainer here, and then I have my beautiful infused oil. It has this really light yellow color, and it is so pretty. I love that color. And it makes the lip butter so pretty. And it does have a nice, wonderful smell to it as well. This is a pretty simple recipe, so I'm going to give you guys the regular recipe, but I am doubling it. So the recipe is as follows: 1/2 cup of infused oil, 1/2 cup of shea butter, or you can use mango or avocado butter, 4 teaspoons of beeswax pastels, and then you're going to want to use essential oils, like things that go together, like orange and mint, or just orange, and you can use frankincense or lavender. On this particular recipe, I used orange and mint. I'm doubling this recipe because I want to fill all these little tins, and it actually filled up 12 of my little tins, and then a little 1/2 pint jar that I had as well. This is one of my favorite things to do, is make my own botanical medicine. And I also love wild foraging. I get all my dandelions in my yard in the front where my dogs do not potty. But if I were to go somewhere, say the school or something, and they have like a huge field of dandelions, I would ask permission, and then I would just take a little bit, and I would make sure that I wash it really well, because I don't know what dogs are walking through or anything, but that's the thing you got to look out for. And you always have to ask permission, and not to harvest everything. Just harvest what you need, because there'll always be more for the next trip. So here I am adding 1 cup of shea butter, and again, you can use whatever you have: avocado butter, shea butter, or mango butter. It will be just as amazing and work just as well. My whole counter is so slippery. My shea butter gets away from me there, but I get it right back on the counter. Everything is so slippery on this counter, but it smells wonderful. I love the fragrance of the dandelion flowers. So that's what that looks like, and we're gonna melt it slow. So I almost forgot, I need to add my beeswax pastels. So I'm adding 8 teaspoons. We are going to melt this low and slow so it heats up nice and slow. You do not want this to burn because that will smell not so good and it'll probably ruin the whole batch. So we're going to melt it nice and slow. And then when that's all melted, and this is what it's going to look like. I got 2 little chunks that have to melt, but that's fine. It'll melt as soon as I get it over to the counter. We're going to add our essential oils. And for this batch, I chose to use orange essential oil, and then I have peppermint essential oil as well. And then I'm going to be adding 20 drops of each. I could have used lavender essential oil, but I put that in all of my lip balms, so I wanted to switch it up and use a citrus and a mint. I thought that would go wonderful together, and it turned out so amazing. It has a hint of orange, and it gives your lips a little tingle with the peppermint. And you can give these as gifts or just store them. They'll be good for about a year to 2 years. That's how long my salves last when I use olive oil. I chose not to use the extra virgin olive oil because that goes rancid faster. So the olive oil works just as amazing. It actually is a little bit better. And it lasts for about a year to 2 years if you store it in a nice, cool, dark place. I also needed a little pick-me-up too because we've been having the worst year ever so far. My husband recently just broke his hip and he is having such a tough time with it. He is finally starting to heal, but that was so horrible. I had to call the ambulance and they had to come get him because he had fallen off a ladder. He's not supposed to be up on a ladder, but you know how men are. They just do what they want. And now he is on his way to recovering. And then on that same week, I had used my pressure cooker and I heard a big pop and then I smelled something burning. And my little outlet caught on fire and was contained in the box. I think we're having the worst year ever, and we're trying to just get on with our life and get him on his way to recovering. They had to do a surgery where they put 2 rods in his leg, one going into the hip and another one going down his femur all the way to his knee. So that is super painful, and we are doing physical therapy, and we have our appointments that we have to go to now with this new doctor, and it's just been a crazy year and I'm already over it. I just want my hubby to feel better so we can just be happy and healthy. And now he really has to eat good. I have to get him all of his vitamins and just try to make everything from scratch like I've been doing. So if you could, please send us some prayers. That would be much appreciative. And on this night, we had made some lasagna. And because I did not have any lasagna noodles, and we're still in the pantry challenge, I wanted to also show you this wonderful book that I got. It was called Pasta Grannies, and I found a lasagna recipe in here. And I had just received my pasta maker from one of my friends and subscribers, and I figure that I will make this wonderful lasagna. I actually got inspired by Rise and Shine Suburban Homestead. She made a similar recipe, I think it was last week or the week before, but I'm just using some chicken that I found in my freezer, and I just put spices on it and baked it for about 2 to 3 hours. And I am making this pasta. The recipe was 4 eggs and then 400 grams of flour. Then you get that all mixed up, and then you put it in the fridge or you let it sit on your counter for about an hour, and everything kind of marries together and it's easier to roll out. I thought this was perfect for my second time making pasta ever. But the pasta machine turned out to be so amazing, and I made these beautiful lasagna sheets. I can't wait to make more recipes with this. It is exciting. And it's not electric, so if the electric goes out, I can still make pasta. And he was so nice. He even got me 2 little drying racks so I can make a ton and then store them in a 5-gallon bucket as well. Oh, that's exciting. So this is my first time doing it. So I might look a little crazy, but it turns out pretty good. I'm using it on the number 1, and then I'm rolling that out a couple times, and then I'm popping it over to a 5. And I didn't know that I was supposed to do that. I just did it because I watched other people do it on YouTube. And I did go back to the book, and it says to roll it or kind of run it through the machine first on a lower setting and then go higher in the number to make it nice and thin. And for lasagna on this machine, it's about a 5 or a 6 to a 9. So I used 5. So it was a little bit thick, but it was really delicious. And my husband even said I hit it out the park. So that was brownie points for this girl. This is not going to be any regular lasagna. This is going to be a buffalo chicken lasagna. So in my recipe, I'm going to have sour cream and cottage cheese that I need to use because it's coming up to the expiration date. And then I have some buffalo sauce, and then I have some mozzarella I'm going to put on top. And these are how the lasagna noodles turned out. They look like little sheets, and I'm just letting them dry on my rack, and I am going to cook them for about 2 minutes. If you had thinner pasta, it would take literally a minute to cook, but since these little sheets of lasagna are a little bit thicker, we are going to cook them for about 2 minutes. So these are the legs that I found in my freezer. I put turmeric, salt and pepper, onion powder and garlic powder in it, and salt and pepper. And then I have some sour cream. I'm putting about a cup of that and about a cup of cottage cheese. And then I am putting some hot sauce in there as well, red wing sauce. And I'm gonna get that all mixed up, and that is gonna be our base for our lasagna. I have never had a lasagna like this, and it turned out so amazing. I will definitely be making this recipe again and again. And then this is how the noodles turned out. They were so awesome. I was so happy with the results. I made them really long, so I had to kind of cut them to shape them into the pan, but that's okay. And then I fed my leftover noodles to my chickens, and they adore them. They're like, "Mom, what is this stuff? I love it." And they're so happy. It kept them content for at least 20 minutes. But yeah, see, I had to just cut off the ends a little bit, but that's okay. We are gonna shape this up and get all the layers in. And on the top, I'm gonna put some shredded mozzarella. I have recently just learned that companies are putting a wood pulp in the shredded cheese, which is an additive called cellulose, and I definitely do not want to be ingesting that, so I'll be shredding all of our cheese myself from now on. Someday I hope to make my own cheese, like some mozzarella and cheddars, so that's something I will be doing some research on. This is how our lasagna turned out, and I'm so excited to try this. I'm gonna get hubby a nice little plate, and of course I had to get my critters. They're so crazy. They just love each other so much, and they all play all the time. I got a nice big helping for Thomas and a nice big helping for me, and then I had a little bit of sourdough bread on the side with butter, and that really hit the spot. We will definitely be making this on a future night for sure. And then I can't wait to make other recipes with my pasta machine. And This went really fast. We had a bunch of leftovers, but it was truly delicious. Then I hope I inspired you guys today, and I hope you're having a wonderful week. Thank you so much for watching, and please consider subscribing if you are not yet. Hope you have a wonderful week, many blessings, and I'll see you on the next video, friends.